with it. So I don't think I've shared with you yet,
Okay.
Karen. The book is under the camera. I see it.
You need to run away to work, Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mike. We
Bye.
loved all the things you said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay.
This is such a great idea. Thank you so much.
I am in heaven. You guys are making my life happy. I just said happy. Now I'm having to think, wait, is it the right happy or is it the... I think this is the right happy. You guys are helping me with my real right happiness. This book, A House United, my mom's... Are you done, Mom?
I'm here. I can hear you.
Did you finish House United?
Yes.
She read it in like a week.
My
Just
gosh.
inhaled. They've been having their winter break. And so...
You don't know how hungry I've been. I'm stuff.
In fact, I bought extra copies to share with people. So if you are interested in this book, you can have it.
You are so sweet, but I already have one of your books.
Oh, no.
No, this
But
isn't
this,
for
like-
Lent.
Like, we are buying these books to give to people
Oh my goodness.
because we love this book. I love this book. The thing, its subtitle is Teaching Self-Government. So this is my soapbox right now, you know, teaching self-government. And part of the reason, Nicolene Peck, part of the reason it's my soapbox right now is because, I mean, this was just my Christmas break read, and so this is new to my family too. But it talks about how to run a whole household, teaching everyone in the household, having the whole family learning self-government together. And it has some specific systems that you can use exactly or not, you know, adapt, whatever. But it talks about how to have it really goes well with TJ Ed. She is a TJ Ed mom. So,
Okay.
and an LDS TJ Ed mom. So we have that background, and you can see some of the influences back and forth.
But at the same time, you don't have to be LDS or homeschool or any of that to
Right.
run with this, because it's just good principles to...
Well, sure. Yeah.
And so it talks about how to have couples meetings, individual mentoring sessions, family meetings, all of these kinds of things, which obviously you can do however you want to do. But it talks about setting that in place and then using that to set up the rules and the consequences in your home. And the thing that my testimonial of, I mean, we just read it over Christmas break and started applying it in January. It's a majorly a work in progress in our home right now. And it applies to some bigger problem behaviors or, you know, anything. So we're working on it a lot in our house right now. And
Bit by bit.
yeah, I think the biggest problem so far is just our habits changing to start, you know, using different terminology a little bit and to be more consistent. It's giving us some more consistency, helping us figure out consequences so that it's not
This
like
hardest
every time
part.
a kid does something wrong, you're like, okay, you need a consequence. Hold on 10 minutes
Yeah.
while I figure out what
Hold that
consequence matches that behavior, and let me go calm down for a little bit because I'm really mad that you did that and I can't think clearly. And it takes all that, well, in theory, and it has a few times in practice for me. There's still times where I'm like, oh no, I'm still not sure what to do. But there was one time that's already my testimonial of it, that Amy did something that I got my reaction. I got mad, and I could almost see the inside Bonnie going, "Ah," ready to pounce on her. She's 5. And I stopped, like, as I'm at this point about to, and I mean, it wasn't that I was going to yell, but I was not going to be nice or happy. As I got to that point, something changed in me, and my thoughts said, wait a minute, I know what to do right now. I learned what to do because I read that book, and we set something in place, and so I don't have to be like this. And I went from to, Amy, what you just did was blah, 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 blah. This is the consequence, blah, blah, blah. And it was empowering. It was just what we're talking about, that I had control, and I was pleased with what I did, and it empowered me to do that.
Can I
Anyway.
add my 2 bits?
Yes?
I told Amy at one point that if, I don't remember, if she didn't stop doing something, I was going to give her a certain consequence. And she looked at me and said, Dad, that's not the consequence is that. I said, you're right. Yes, it is. Okay, so that would be the consequence. She knows what the consequence is supposed to be, and I wanted to give her a harsher one because I wanted her to cut it out. But she knows what the consequence is.
And it has been cool to see the changes in Amy. She used to get more out of control and take a longer time to get in control, and this is helping her to just stop that, to choose out of that. So it's fabulous. You can borrow it, you can keep it, you can leave it here if you don't want it, you can do whatever, but you're welcome to it. And the other one that I just wanted to put a plug in that Matt is the only one that's heard me talk on and on about this one, is, and I told you, there was a class that I couldn't resist taking. I just absolutely had to take it, that I'm just taking at my own pace right now. One of the books that we read for that class, the class is called Current Events, Trends, and Cycles in History. So it's pretty, that's why part of why I couldn't resist taking it was because I knew it was going to be pertinent to Principles of Liberty. And I was going to learn things there that were going to make my contribution to this group better. And so that was a huge part of it for me. One of the books we read, actually one of the only ones I've read so far, because it was huge, was called The Fourth Turning by William Strauss and Neil Howe. And it talks about a different kind of cycle in history, and it's called a saeculum, and it's every 80 to 100 years and many different ancient societies and modern societies have gone through these cycles over and over and over. And he goes through, since the 15th century, the cycle that we've done through these exact same patterns.
It's like 4 generations.
It's a 4 generations cycle, and there's archetypes for each generation that keep repeating themselves. The same kind of generation happens every 4th time, and the generations switch to a different phase. There's kind of 4 phases of life: childhood, young adult, middle age, and elderhood. And as each generation begins transitioning to the next stage of life, the eras change. So there's the generations and the eras, and so there are 4 eras, kinds of eras that keep repeating over and over and over. And so it goes through and it talks about it, and it says, it goes more into depth into this most recent cycle and shows how there's a high in the 40s, 50s, 60s, after the World War II was over, and that crisis ended. There was a high period, and then there was the awakening kind of period with the 60s and 70s, which I wasn't alive during, but I've heard a few things. And then this unraveling of the 80s and 90s, early 2000s, that's kind of everything starting, unraveling I think is a really good word for it. And so those are the 3 that keep happening, and then the 4th turning, the book's called The Fourth Turning because the 4th one in the cycle is a crisis. And there's a crisis era that keeps coming. So the last crisis was Great Depression and World War II, and there's this crisis now. And because these happen over and over in history, we can learn the patterns, and so we can prepare. And so Matt asked the question, how can we propel ourselves quicker and get through the cycle quicker? And the cycles in history, there's not too much going through quicker. The Civil War kind of was the anomaly because they tried to go through things quicker, and it got messier because they skipped a few things and got propelled into the crisis sooner than the cycles would say that they should have, and it made things messier and more crisis, but a bigger crisis than maybe it would have been if it had waited till its spot. But it was so fascinating to just read what crisis eras are like, and how there's a catalyst and there's a hardening period that it's building, and then there's a climax and a resolution. And I just think